Hi everybody, my name is Amy Kim Kibuishi, author and artist of the Rema Chronicles, Realm of the Blue Mist.
And I'm Kazu Kibuishi. I'm the author and illustrator of Amulet, the series from Scholastic Graphics. And Reema's also a book from Graphics Books at Scholastic.
That's right. I'm happy to be here talking with you, Kazu. Not like I talk to you every single day.
Yeah, we talk to each other all the time. In fact, when we work on the books, we actually speak with each other all the time because we're working right here and here. So we're right here in our office at home.
I mean, usually it's things like, how much time do we have before we have to go pick up the kids? Like that's the kind of the stuff that we usually talk about. But
yeah, so the books are what we do between picking up the kids from school. All right, so I'm gonna ask you a few questions because we're here to talk about Amy's new book, The Rema Chronicles, Realm of the Blue Mist. It's book 1 in a series, and it is something that she's been working on for a very long time, ever since I've known her. So she's known this book longer than she's known me. This project is it's been with her for a long, long time, just like Amulet. Actually, Amulet's been with me since I was a child. What inspired Rema Chronicles?
Yeah. It started with a dream that I had when I was around 12 years old, and it really stuck with me. As soon as I woke up, I really wanted to go back to that world in my dream. And just every time I saw something that inspired me, like, I don't know, Sailor Moon or the Final Fantasy video games, or every time I went through something important in my life, it just kind of went into the development of this world. And I've just been working on it all this time, and now it's finally ready to be shared with everybody. I'm so happy that it's ready to share with people.
Yeah, and it's a long process, right? So what did you learn from doing this first book?
Well, so many things, but I think because it was like a lifelong process, and it kind of guided me throughout my life in a way, because as I was developing the story, I would learn something about myself as well. And I think the biggest lesson I took away from making the Rema Chronicles is just to trust myself and my instincts, because it all turned out okay. But it was a bit scary at first to trust myself. And I hope you guys also learn to trust yourselves.
Yeah, this book, I've actually seen so many different versions of it. I think the first version I saw personally was a webcomic, but I think that wasn't the first version. What was the very first version of Rema Chronicles?
The very first version was a novella that I wrote between the ages of like 13 and 16. And it was very short. It was only about 150 pages, but to me as a young person, I was like, oh my gosh, it's huge. It's like a novel. And I'd share it with my friends and my teachers actually, and they would encourage me a lot. So that's how it started.
Yeah, it feels like a novel when I read it. It feels very literary, and it's something that I always wanted to see in comics. And so it's one of the reasons why I wanted to start making comics like that. Comic books that felt like books.
Yeah. They're the best, aren't they? Yeah.
So who is your favorite character?
My favorite character, I mean, I love all the characters, but I think my favorite character to draw obviously is Philip. But I think, as I was telling you another time, that I think he's my favorite because books 1 and 2 are kind of a 2-part tale that is his story, actually. So I'm wondering, once I get into book 3, will I have a different character that I love to draw the most? I don't know. But there's always Tabby, too. And she's, I love drawing her facial expressions because she's somebody who doesn't say much, but she feels a lot. So I try to convey that in her face. And that's really always a fun challenge.
Yeah, it feels like you see the world through Tabby. Like when I see her face, I feel like that's me, the reader, or any reader out there.
So Kazu, you're like, it's
Tabby.
Me.
Well, no, it's like, it reminds me of a never-ending story, and Bastian, the character of Bastian, the boy in the real world is reading the book, and Tabby is kind of like Bastian, but also getting to be Atreyu.
She does
in the fantasy
read.
world.
She reads the book of Reema and goes into that storyline too. So yeah, you're right.
I think it has that parallel. What inspirations did you draw from?
Well, I know we have this in common, but I was really inspired by the Final Fantasy video game series.
The old ones.
The old ones. So for me, it was Final Fantasy 6 and 7, or Final Fantasy 3 that came out in the Super Nintendo.
Yeah. I think
But for you, it was different, right?
Yeah, in the United States, like the Super Nintendo ones were Final Fantasy 2, Final Fantasy 3.
Mm-hmm.
Those are the only ones I really played.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, and number 2 is like pretty much Amulet. That's what it was like. What inspired me to make the book.
Well, who's your favorite character to draw in Amulet?
Emily, actually.
Yeah.
Yeah. Over time, it wasn't when I started.
Oh,
like
really?
I wanted to draw
You're like that darn Emily.
Well, I wanted to draw the characters that the readers want to read about. Usually, it's like Miskit or Leon or just like the fun characters on the sides. But then Emily's character became more interesting as the writing wore on. The more story came out, the more I felt like the main character had the most to say through emotions and through action. So Emily became easily the best character for me to draw because I can get into the emotions faster than anybody else. Yeah. But I also like Trellis too now. Oh. I used to hate drawing Trellis, but
he has a lot of buckles and
now
sashes.
He's actually become pretty fun to draw, and he looks heroic and stuff. So I like that.
Yeah, I really love his transformation over the course of the books. Trellis has been an interesting character to follow. Yeah.
Becomes less moody.
This is always nice. It's always nice to chill. Yeah.
All right. So what? And ultimately, what have you learned from making the first book? What was the biggest lesson that you take
from just the first book overall? I mean, aside from learning to trust my instincts and things like that, I think I learned so many skills, like just how to color, which you had a huge part in teaching me how to color. It's true.
You did it all.
No. You taught me everything. I use all the Amulet brushes. The brush set that you made is perfect. It's a perfect brush set.
I made some of them, but Kang made a lot.
Okay, yeah. Thank you, Kang.
Our friend Kang Lee. He's so brilliant.
It's brilliant.
Yeah, there's a couple of artists that made some really good brushes in there.
So, any news about Amulet 9? Any updates you'd like to share or anything like that?
No, I'm just working on it right here.
Yeah, if you just scooch the camera over
there, it'd be
you'd see
right over here. I'm working.
Not today.
I'm working on the book. I'm almost done, and it's very strange. So, yeah.
How does it feel to be at the end of the series? Because I feel like I'm just at the beginning of making my series, and you're kind of wrapping it up. And what is that like?
It's kind of stressful and a little sad, but also I feel a lot of relief that I'll be able to come to the end of the story. And now it can just live in the world without me. And something about that is really nice, so that I can now start working on other things. It's nice.
Do you think a part of you will always be left behind in Lydia?
No.
No? Oh.
I don't know, maybe.
Maybe some bits and pieces of you.
Yeah, maybe. I don't know. Yeah.
No.
Yeah. It's I don't do it for the world building. I do it for the story.
Oh, I kind of do it for the world.
Yeah, you like living in that world.
I do. I love living in Reema. I love making up the food and the costumes and just all the holidays and everything. I have all these things made up on Reema that I just wish I had an infinite number of pages and time to be able to explore it all.
Well, that inspired me to want to do something like that the next time around. I want to make some place that I really want to be in. And when I was making Amulet, I was just too busy. So I was like, just whatever, throw everything in there.
There's a lot happening out there, Lydia.
And then I didn't really think it through on some of the stuff on the world building side. But, it still holds together, I think.
I think.
Still, it's okay.
It's awesome.
Yeah. So anyway, the new book, the Rema Chronicles, Realm of the Blue Mist, is now out. There's, in paperback and hardcover. It's the first of a series of books, as we mentioned. Amy's working hard on the second book now, and there's going to be more after that. If you're interested in Amulet, if you're into adventure stories and romance and things like that, I highly recommend it. I don't know, what else would you want to say about your series? Like, what should they take away?
I just hope whoever reads it enjoys it. And my biggest goal was to have that feeling that when you close the cover, you just kind of look up in the sky and sigh and think about how beautiful the world is just for a moment. I would really like that. That was my ultimate goal with the first book.
I think it's good. I think that it feels like that. It's beautiful.